Good morning, everyone. Today we will discuss about aphasia and aphasia syndrome. Introduction. Language has provided the foundation of human civilization and learning. Analysis of the patterns of abnormality in the language has practical usefulness in the neurological diagnosis. Historically, language was the first highest cortical function to be correlated with specific types of brain damage. Aphasia is defined as a disorder of language that is acquired secondary to brain damage, as per Alexander and Benson in 1997. First, aphasia is distinguished from congenital or developmental language disorders called dysphagia. Aphasia is a disorder of language rather than a speech. Language is a complex system of communication symbols and rules for their use. Speech is the articulation and phonation of language sounds. Speech disorders include dysarthria, dysphonia, it means voice disorders, stuttering, and speech apraxia. Dysarthrias are disorders of articulation of single sounds. Dysarthria may result from mechanical disturbance of tongue or larynx or from neurological disorders. Apraxia of speech. Syndrome of misarticulation of phonemes, especially consonant sounds. Dysarthria, certain phonemes are consistently distorted. Apraxia of speech. Inconsistent distortions and substitution of phonemes. The disorder is called as an apraxia because there is no primary motor deficit in articulation of individual phonemes. Speech apraxic patients produce inconsistent articulatory errors, usually words on the initial phonemes of a word and with polysyllabic utterance. Linguistic component. Phonemes are the smallest meaning-carrying sounds. Morphology is the use of appropriate word endings and connected words. Semantics refers to word meaning. A lexicon is the internal dictionary. Syntax. Syntax is the grammatical construction of phrases and sentences. Discourse. Discourse refers to the use of these elements to create organized and logical expression of thought. Pragmatic refers to the proper use of speech and language in conventional settings, including pausing while others are speaking, taking turns properly, and responding to questions. Neuroanatomical basis. Reception and processing of spoken language. Auditory cortex in Hazel's gyrus or superior temporal gyrus. Wernicke's area or Brodmann area 22, lying or posterior part of the left superior temporal gyrus via the arcuate fasciculus. Broca's area in the posterior inferior temporal gyrus. Adjacent motor cortex serving the mouth and larynx. And brain stem, cranial nerve nucleus. This is the different parts of the brain areas, different area. Broca's area lying inferior temporal gyrus, Brodmann area 44 and 45. Wernicke's area lying in the superior temporal gyrus, area 22, and other areas occurring below. The inferior parietal lobule, especially the supramarginal gyrus, is involved in phoneme processing in language comprehension. owning production for repetition and speed. Reading. Reading requires the perception of visual language stimulated by occipital cortex, followed by processing into auditory language information via the heteromodal association cortex of the singular gyrus. Writing. Writing involves the activation of motor neurons projecting to the arm and hand. In addition, other cortical centers involved in cognitive processes project into the primary language cortex, influencing the content of language. Role of the cortical structures. Thalamus. Thalamus relay for the reticular activating system, and it appears to alert the language cortex, and if there are lesions in the dominant thalamus, it can produce fluent aphasia. Nuclei of basal ganglia, especially the caudate nucleus and putamen, which participate in expressive speech. In right-handed people, and in the majority of left-handers, clinical symptoms of aphasia result from left hemisphere lesions. Rarely, aphasia may result from a right hemisphere lesion in a right-handed patient, a phenomenon called cross aphasia. In left-handed persons, language disorders are usually similar to those of the right-handed person with similar lesions, but exceptional cases present with atypical syndrome. In right-handed aphasia, left hemisphere lesions in 99% of the cases, the other 1% are cross aphasia. In left-handed aphasia, 60% had lesions of the left hemisphere and 40% had lesions of the right hemisphere. There may be a degree of mixed dominance for language in non-right-handed individuals. Aphasia may tend to be less severe in left-handed and recovery better. Thus, the family history of left-handed head and right-handed aphasia may predict better recovery. Symptoms and differential diagnosis of disordered language. Muteness. Muteness, it is a total loss of speech, may represent severe aphasia, severe form of dysarthria. It may be due to the frontal lobe dysfunction with mechanical increase, severe extrapyramidal system dysfunction as in Parkinson's disease. Non-neurological disorders of the larynx and pharynx and psychogenic syndrome such as catatonia. A good rule of thumb is that if the patient can write or type in the language form and the contents are normal, the disorder is probably not aphasia in origin. Visit and speech. Symptoms of aphasia. Symptom of dysarthria are respecting psychogenic disorders. Rule of thumb is that if one can transcript the utterances of hesitant speaker into normal language, the patient is not aphakic. Anomia. Inability to produce a specific name, generally a reliable indicator of language disorders. It may also reflect memory loss. Paraphagic speech refers to the presence of errors in the patient's speech output. Literal or phonemic errors involving substitution of an incorrect sound, verbal or semantic errors involving substitution of an incorrect word. Preservation. The inappropriate repetition of previous responses. Neology. Aphakic stances involve non-existent word forms. The pattern of paraphrastic errors and neologisms that so contaminate speech that the meaning cannot be discerned is called jargon speech. Fluent paraphrastic speech. Differential diagnosis here involve aphasia, psychosis, acute encephalopathy or delirium, and dementia. Aphagic patients are usually not confused or inappropriate in behavior. They do not appear agitated or misuse objects with occasional exception. By contrast, most psychotic patients speak in an easily understood, grammatically appropriate manner, but their behavior and speech contents are not abnormal. Only rarely do schizophrenics speak in strong association or word-alike speech. Bedside language examination. A wealth of information about the language function can be obtained during the clinical interview. Strong Benson and Norman Jesslin popularized the bedside language examination of 6 parts, which is updated by Alexander and Benson in 1997. Bedside language examination contains spontaneous speech. In spontaneous speech is informal interview, structured thoughts, and automatic expressions. Further naming, auditory comprehension, repetition, reading, reading aloud and reading comprehension and writing, which include continuous sentences, writing to dictation, and copying. Spontaneous speech. Fluent speech flows rapidly and effortlessly. Non-fluent speech is heard in the single word or short phrases with frequent pauses and hesitations. First, observe the elementary characteristics such as initiation difficulty, articulation, phonation or voice swelling, rate of speech, prosody or melodic intonation of speech, resistance. Second, the content of speech utterances should be analyzed in terms of the presence of word-finding pauses, circumlocutions, and errors such as literal and verbal paraphrases and neologisms. Naming. Naming is tested by asking the patient to name objects, object parts, object pictures, colors, and body parts to the concentration. A few items from each category should be tested. Proper names of persons are often affected severely. The examiner should ensure that the patient recognizes the items or it is that he or she cannot name. Auditory comprehension. Auditory comprehension is tested by asking the patient to follow a series of commands of 1, 2, and or 3 steps. An example of a one-step command is stick out your tongue. Two-step command is hold up your left thumb and close your eyes. Successful following of commands ensures adequate comprehension at night rest. The patient must hear the command, understand the language the examiner speaks, and possesses the motor ability to execute it, including the absence of asphyxia. Because asphyxia is difficult to exclude with confidence, it is advisable to test comprehension by tasks that do not require motor, such as yes or no questions. Repetition. These artistic questions have difficulty with rapid sequences of consonants. Aphagics have special difficulty with grammatically complex sentences. Often, aphagics can repeat familiar phrases much better than unfamiliar ones. Reading should be tested both aloud and for comprehension. The examiner should carry a few printed commands to facilitate a rapid conversion of auditory to reading comprehension. The examiner must have some idea of the patient's pre-morbid reading ability. Writing. The element of the bedside examination most often omitted. A writing specimen may be the most sensitive indicator of mild aphasia, and it provides a permanent record for future comparison. Spontaneous writing, such as a sentence describing why the patient has come for examination, is especially sensitive for the detection of language differences. When spontaneous writing fails, writing to dictation and copying should be tested. Finally, combine the results of bedside language examination with those of the rest of the neurological examination. These associated signs help to classify the type of aphasia and to localize the responsible brain region. Differential diagnosis of aphasia syndrome. First, Broca's aphasia. Paul Broca, the French physician, described in 1861 that speech pattern is non-print if the maximum sentence length is fewer than 7 words. Then the patient is non-print. Patient speaks hesitantly, often producing the principal meaning containing nouns and verbs, but omitting small grammatical words. An example is wife from hospital. The grammatism are telegraphic speech. They make many phonemic errors with substitution of phonemes usually differing only slightly from the correct target. Naming is deficient, but the patient often manifests as a tip of the tongue phenomenon. Auditory comprehension since intake repetition is hesitant in these patients, resembling their spontaneous speech. Reading is often impaired despite relatively reserved auditory comprehension. Benson summed his reading difficulty of Broca passages the third election, in distinction to the two classical types of election. Associated neurological distress of Broca aphasia include right hemiparesis, hemisensory loss, ataxia of the oral apparatus, and the non-paralyzed left limb. An important clinical feature of Broca's aphasia is its frequent association with depression. The lesion site, Broca's area in the posterior part of the inferior frontal gyrus. In CT scan, analyzes the Boston Veterans Administration Medical Center regions combining Broca's area and the lower precentral gyrus and subcortical white matter yielded the full syndrome of Broca's area. In studies by the same group, damage to two subcortical white matter sites, the rostral studies by the same group, damage to two subcortical white matter sites, the rostral subcallosal fasciculus deep to the Broca's area and the periventricular white matter adjacent to the body of left lateral ventricle. They are required to cause permanent non-fluency. Bedside features of Broca's acidity. Features spontaneous include non-fluent, mute, or telegraphic, usually distorted. Naming impaired, comprehensive intake may be mild difficulty with complex grammatical phrases. Repetition is also impaired. Reading often impaired, called third alexia, and writing also impaired. Writing may be dysmorphic, dysgrammatical, and associated signs, right hemiparesis, right hemisphere loss, and ataxia left limb. This is the picture showing acute infarct over the left side inferior temporal lobe. Secondly, rare variant of Broca's acidity. It is non-fluent syndrome. Patient is initially mute and then able to speak with phoneme substitution and pause. All other language functions are intact, including writing. Usually, transitory syndrome results from small lesions of Broca's area or in subcortical white matter or of the inferior prefrontal gyrus. Because written expression and auditory comprehension are normal, Anemia is not a true language disorder. Anemia may be equivalent to pure ataxia of speech. Wernicke's atresia syndrome opposite to Broca's atresia. Expressive speech is seen. The speech pattern is effortless and sometimes even expressly print logorrhea. Neurolinguists refer to pattern as paragrammatism. In milder cases, the intended meaning of an utterance may be discerned. Naming is deficient, often with bizarre or paraphrastic substitution for the correct name. Auditory comprehension is impaired, sometimes even for simple nonsense questions. Repetition is also impaired. Reading comprehension is usually affected, similarly to auditory comprehension. But occasional patients show greater deficit in one modality versus other. Writing may also impaired. The patient usually has no hemiparesis and can guess the pain. Written productions are even more abnormal than the oral ones. The writing samples are especially useful in the detection of mild Wernicke ataxia Associated signs are limited in Wernicke septicemia. Most patients have no elementary motor or sensory deficit. Partial or complete right homonymous hemianopia may be present. Psychiatric manifestation of Wernicke septicemia are quite different. Some patients become angry or paranoid about the inability of family members and medical staff to understand them. Lesion side of the Wernicke septicemia lies or posterior portion of superior temporal gyrus, sometimes extending into the inferior parietal. Extension of the lesion into the inferior parietal region may predict greater involvement of reading comprehension. In terms of vascular anatomy, the Wernicke's area lies within the territory of the inferior division of the left middle cerebral artery. Bedside pictures of Wernicke septicemia. Spontaneous speech in Wernicke septicemia is filled with paraphagic errors, usually non-episodic, sometimes logorrheic. Naming is also impaired, often bizarre paraphagic misnaming. Comprehension is severely impaired. Repetition is also impaired. Reading is impaired for comprehension and reading aloud. Writing is well formed and paragraphic. Associated sign may be with right hemianopia and motor sensory signs are usually absent. This is the lesions in Wernicke's area, which is responsible for sensory aphasia and comprehension. Affection, however, this area leads to the Wernicke's aphasia, impairs comprehension, writing, reading. Pure word deafness. Isolated loss of auditory comprehension and repetition without any abnormality of speech, naming, reading, or writing. It is called pure word deafness. Hearing for pure tones and for non-verbal noises such as an animal cries is intact. Classically, the anatomical subset is a bilateral lesion isolating Wernicke's area from the primary auditory cortex. The bilateral hessus gyri. Pure word distance is thus an example of a disconnected syndrome. Deficit results from loss of white matter connections rather than of gray matter linkage patterns. Some cases are due to unilateral left temporal lesions. Global aphasia. Formation of the district of Broca's aphasia in Wernicke's aphasia. Speech is non-fluent or mute, but comprehension is also poor, as are naming, repetition, reading, and writing. Most patients have dense right hemiparesis, hemisensory loss, and often hemianopia. Lesion size intrafrontal and superior temporal region, and often most of the parietal lobe is missing. Involvatory is left side middle cerebral artery territory. Recovery in global aphasia may be prolonged, and global aphasia may recover more during second 6 months during the second than during the first 6 months after the stroke. Bedside features of global aphasia. Spontaneous speech is mute or non-fluent, naming, comprehension, repetition, reading, and writing all are impaired. Associated signs of global aphasia: right hemiparesis, right hemisensory loss, and right hemianopia. Conduction aphasia. Conduction aphasia is characterized by its striking deficit in the repetition. Most patients have relatively normal spontaneous speech, although some make literal paraphrastic errors and hesitate frequently for self-correction. Auditory comprehension is weaker. Naming may be impaired. Reading and writing are somewhat variable, but reading aloud may share some of the same difficulty as repeating. Associated deficits include myopia in some patients, right-sided sensory loss may be present, right hemiparesis is usually mild or absent. Some patients have limb apraxia, creating a misimpression that comprehension is impaired. The lesions of conduction aphasia usually involve either the superior temporal or inferior parietal region. Benson and associates suggested that patients with limb apraxia have parietal lesions, whereas those without apraxia have temporal lesions. Wernicke originally postulated that a lesion disconnecting the Wernicke and Broca's area would produce this syndrome. Wine later pointed to the arcade fasciculus, a white matter tract traveling from deep temporal lobe around the sylvian fissure to the frontal lobe as the site of its connection. Anatomical involvement of the arcade fasciculus is present in the most, if not all, cases of conduction aphasia. Bedside features of conduction aphasia. In conduction aphasia, speech is tuned, some hesitancy, lifter paraphrasic air. In conduction aphasia, naming may be moderately impaired, but comprehension is impaired. Repetition is severely impaired in conduction aphasia. Reading patient is inability to read out and reading comprehension. Writing is variable deficit and associated signs of conduction aphasia like apraxia of the left limb, right side hemiparesis, which is usually mild, right side hemisensory loss, and right hemianopia. Anomic aphasia, naming or access to the internal lexicon, is the principal deficit. Spontaneous speech is normal except for the pauses which is produced by the ineligible name. Comprehension, repetition, reading, and writing are intact except for the same word finding difficulty in the written production. Less specific in localization than other strategic syndromes. Isolated severe anemia may indicate focal left hemiparesis pathology. Inability to produce nouns, which means lesions over the temporal lobe. Inability to produce work, which may be interlobe disease. Alexander and Benson in 1997 referred to the angular gyrus as site of lesions producing anomic aphasia. But lesions they are usually produce their other deficits, including alexia and the four elements of Gerstmann syndrome. Anemia is also seen with marked lesions elsewhere in the brain. Diffuse degenerative disorders such as Alzheimer's disease. Anomic aphasia is also a common stage in the recovery of many exhibit syndromes. Anomic aphasia thus serves as an indicator of left hemiparesis or diffuse brain disease, but it has only limited localizing value. Bedside features of anomic aphasia. Spontaneous speech in anomic aphasia is speech is different from word finding pauses and circumlocution. Naming, comprehension, reading also in anomic aphasia only naming intact, comprehension, repetition, reading is intact, also writing is intact, but except for anomia. Associated signs of anomic aphasia is variable cortical aphasia. Syndrome in which repetition is normal. Positive lesions do not disrupt the peripheral language circuit. Lesions disrupt connection from other cortical centers into the language circuit. Hence the name is cortical. Mixed cortical aphasia. Global aphasia in which the patient repeats often echo-logically but has no positional speech or comprehension. Occurring predominantly in the large watershed infarction of the left hemisphere or both hemispheres that spare the peripheral cortex or in advanced dementia. Strong cortical sensory aphasia is an analog of Wernicke's aphasia, but repetition is present occurring in the strokes of the left temporo-occipital area and in dementia. Pons cortical motor aphasia is an analog of Broca's aphasia, but repetition is present. Occurs with lesions in the frontal lobe, which is anterior to the Broca's area, deep frontal white matter, middle frontal region, and vicinity of the supplementary motor area. All of these region sites are within the territory of anterior cerebral artery. Bedside features of transcortical procedure. In speech isolation syndrome, it is a non-fluent and echolalic, but in transcortical motor, it is non-fluent. In transcortical sensory, it is a fluent and echolalic. Naming including all three isolation syndrome, transcortical motor, and in transcortical motor, comprehension is intact, but in isolation syndrome, in transcortical sensory, comprehension is intact. Distribution is intact in all, and the reading intact in transcortical motor, but in isolation syndrome, in transcortical sensory, reading is intact, and writing is also intact in transcortical motor, but impaired in isolation syndrome and transcortical sensory. Subcortical episodes defined by lesions, localization in the basal ganglia or deep cerebral white matter. Two major groups of subcortical episodes, aphasia with thalamic lesions and aphasia with lesions of the subcortical white matter and basal ganglia. Aphasia with thalamic lesions, left thalamic hemorrhage, frequently produce a Wernicke-like faint aphasia, better comprehension than cortical Wernicke aphasia, fluctuating or dichotomous state has been described, consists of alternating alert state and a drowsy state. Some have attributed thalamic aphasia to pressure on adjacent structures and secondary effect on the cortex. Thalamic aphasia also occurs with small ischemic lesions involving paramedian or anterior nuclei of the thalamus in the territory of pseudothalamic artery. It indicates that the thalamus and its connections play a definitive role in language function. Thalamic aphasia can occur even with a right thalamic lesion in a left-handed patient. Lesions of the left basal ganglia and deep right. First described in basal ganglia hemorrhage, especially those involving the putamen, most commonly involve global or Wernicke-like aphasia. Systemic strokes have provided better localizing information. Posterior subcortical aphasia syndrome is involving the posterior putamen and deep temporal white matter, temporal ischemia. Twin paraphagic speech and impaired comprehension resembling Wernicke. Anterior subcortical aphasia syndrome. Lesion in the index involving the anterior putamen, caudate nucleus, and the anterior limb of the internal posterior. Dysarthria, decreased fluency, mildly interpretation, and mild comprehension disturbance. Closely resembles Broca's aphasia, but with greater dysarthria and less language distinction. Larger subcortical lesions involving both the anterior and the posterior lesion sites produce global aphasia. Basal ganglia lesions affect language both directly and indirectly via decreased activation of cortical language area. In summary, subcortical lesions do produce aphasia, less commonly than cortical lesions. Language characteristics of subcortical aphasias are often atypical. Pure alexia without agraphia. Alexia is an acquired inability to read. Pure alexia without agraphia described by the French neurologist Desjardins in 1892. It is characterized by linguistic blindfolding. Patients can write but cannot read their own writing. Spontaneous speech, auditory comprehension, and repetition are normal. Naming may be difficult, especially for scholars. Associated deficits include a right hemianopia, a right upper quadrant defect in nearly all patients, frequently a deficit of short-term memory. There is usually no hemiplegia or sensory loss. Nearly always a stroke in the territory of the posterior cerebral artery with infarction or middle occipital lobe, often the splenium of the corpus callosum and middle temporal lobe. Desjardins postulated a disconnection between the intact right visual cortex and the left hemisphere language parental, particularly in the angular gyrus. Bedside test features of the pure alexia without agraphia. Spontaneously intact, learning the impaired, especially for colors, and comprehension, repetition, and writing is intact. Reading is impaired, and some sparing of the single letter. An associated signs of pure alexia without agraphia is right side hemianopia or superior quadrantopia. Short-term memory loss, motor sensory signs, this is usually absent. Clear MRI images of 80-year-old male patient with alexia without agraphia. The infarction involved middle occipital lobe and the splenium of the corpus callosum within the territory of the left posterior artery. Investigation of the aphasic patient included bedside language examination and larger number of standardized aphasic test batteries have been published that they have advantage of quantification and standardization. Most helpful battery is the Boston Diagnostic Aphasia Examination or its Canadian adaptation, the Western Aphasia Battery. Further diagnosis of aphasic patient based on the confirmation of brain region by neuroimaging and MRI is better modulated in the city. In preparation for epilepsy surgery, the water test or incision of chemobarbital through an arterial catheter is useful in determination of language dominance. Other tests respect age and functional MRI. Functional MRI study allows the hypometabolism in the language cortex shortly after the ischemic injury, followed by increased activation of homologous areas in the contralateral hemisphere. Differential diagnosis, ischemic stroke, Wernicke's aphasia, inferior region of the left hemisphere, global hemisphere, left hemisphere skin, intracerebral artery, cross-cortical motor aphasia, left territory, pure alexia without agraphia, left territory. Hemorrhagic stroke most commonly the basal ganglionous hemorrhage. Recovery was better with hemorrhagic stroke. Other traumatic brain injury, tumors of the left hemisphere, and degenerative diseases like Alzheimer's disease, frontotemporal dementia, or corticovascular degeneration. Infections like brain abscesses, or chronic infections such as tuberculosis or syphilis, herpes simplex encephalitis, or AIDS, seizures, The associated aphasia in children is a part of Landau-Kleffner syndrome in adults and extra aposexual phenomenon, migraine, and psychogeny. Recovery and rehabilitation of aphasia. Patients with aphasia from acute disorders such as stroke generally shows spontaneous improvement over days, weeks, or months. In general, the greatest recovery occurs during the first 3 months, but improvement may continue over a prolonged period, especially in the young patients with the global aphasia. The aphasia type often changes during the recovery. Aphasia recovers best when left hemisphere areas recover function. Right hemisphere activation seems to be second best for the recovery. Repeated practice in articulation and comprehension tasks traditionally has been used to stimulate the improvement. Other techniques include melodic intonation therapy and visual action therapy. Two other therapeutic techniques are functional communication therapy and CYC or linggrafia. Speech therapy has remained somewhat controversial, but evidence of efficacy is actually better for speech therapy than for many others. Thank you.